Love him or hate him, it's fair to say that 2020 has been the year of Lewis Hamilton. The man stormed to a 7th World Drivers' Championship at the Turkish Grand Prix, in a season where he also surpassed Michael Schumacher's win record, beat the podium record, and recorded the fastest lap time in Formula 1 history. And now, #Bless has been added to the New Year's honours list, where he'll be knighted by the Queen. But has he actually done enough to deserve this? Can feel the tension in the room already. Hey there guys, and welcome to FP1, and today I'm here to talk a little bit about the life and career of Lewis Hamilton. The Brit's 2020 season was arguably one of the best in his career, amounting more points than the entire Red Bull team. But that team did run Alex Albon, so... Anyway, today I thought it could be a good idea to look back on Lewis's F1 career and see whether he can really be considered one of the greatest of all time, and if this knighthood is deserved or not. Before we do though, if you like what you see here, please do consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel, as it really helps me out. We've had a fantastic 2020, so let's keep this momentum going into the new year. And if you want to hear even more from me, then you can also follow me over on Twitter or get involved in our Discord community, all links for which can be found in the description below. So then, let's get into things and deduce whether Lewis Hamilton really deserves his knighthood. Lewis had an incredibly successful junior career, winning the Formula 3 Euro Series in 2005, and then following that up with a dominant showing in GP2 the year after. Lewis then made the step up to Formula 1 for the 2007 season with McLaren. Now, despite this impressive single-seater record, this was still going to be a big risk for the F1 team. After a spell of Ferrari dominance in the early 2000s, the team's hold on the top of the championship was weakening, while McLaren were on the up, getting closer and closer to the prancing horses year on year. So, when the Constructors' Championship was within their grasp, signing a rookie was a big gamble for the team, and one that paid off, unlike when they stole Ferrari's plans later on in the year. For Hamilton as well, this was going to be a challenge. Not only would he be expected to perform up at the front, but he also had to deal with two-time world champion Fernando Alonso alongside him. And this was Alonso at his peak, when many expected him to clinch even more wins and championships. A prediction which aged about as well as Bernie Ecclestone. The season would get underway in Australia then, and despite being out-qualified by his teammate on Saturday, Hamilton would put his fist down early, overtaking Alonso in a daring move into turn 1, a move which hasn't always go to plan, as Kobayashi proved in 2014. Hamilton would end up finishing that race on the podium in 3rd, the first of 9 consecutive podiums to start the year. Not too bad for a rookie, it must be said. Coming into the penultimate round in China, Hamilton had mounted 4 wins and finished all but one race inside the top 5, placing him firmly in the championship hunt with his teammate and Ferrari's Kimi Raikkonen. But a mistake when coming into the pits would force him out of the race, and the 7th place finish in Brazil would also not be enough to take that top spot, with the 2007 crown eventually going to Raikkonen. So in his rookie year, Hamilton had managed 4 Grand Prix wins and 11 podiums. Oh, and also made the country of Spain a little bit angry. Alonso would end up leaving the team and be replaced by Heikki Kovalainen for 2008. But the Finn would end up being less of a challenge for Hamilton. Now, where have I seen that before? Hamilton's main rivals would once again be the Ferraris of Kimi Raikkonen and Felipe Massa. But Lewis would end up having an incredibly strong beginning to the season, taking a further 5 wins and 10 podiums, all while making less mistakes. Well, apart from this one. Now, I think we all know how this season ended, but in case you didn't, I'm just going to recommend you watch the 2008 Brazilian Grand Prix. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. But honestly, I feel like that 2008 championship was so much more important than people realise, but I'm going to get back to this point later in the video. Now, unfortunately for Lewis, this would be where things start to take a turn for the worse, as the new regulations for 2009 made the McLaren car drive like an old shopping cart. The season would also start with controversy after Lewis was caught lying to the stewards over a safety car infringement, leading to him being disqualified from the opening round of the championship in Australia. 2010, however, would provide a ray of hope for the young Brit, as McLaren stepped up with its 2010 car and also replaced his subpar teammate, a move his current team seem yet to have learned. Hamilton had a car that was capable of winning again, and he did so, taking 9 podiums and 3 wins at Turkey, Canada and Belgium. However, a mixture of poor luck and mistakes cost Lewis the title, managing to take it to the wire at the end of the season, but eventually losing out to Sebastian Vettel. And as Seb and Red Bull began to rise, the opposite was true for Hamilton and McLaren. The 2011 car was still capable for fighting for the championship, as proved by Jenson Button, but Lewis instead found himself clashing with the 2008 championship rival Felipe Massa. And though when he wasn't near the Ferrari, his results were actually pretty consistent, Lewis entered the year 5th in the standings, his joint worst result in Formula 1. The situation would continue to go wrong in 2012, as Lewis was plagued with reliability issues, taking him out of the lead of both the Singapore and Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. This was also the year of Romain Grosjean, which is enough said, to be honest. All this meant was that Hamilton lost faith in McLaren and made the bold decision to switch to Mercedes for the 2013 season. Now, it's debatable how much Lewis was aware of the sheer dominance in that Mercedes package, but this turned out to be the best decision anyone has ever made until Twitter finally decided to delete Katie Hopkins. And this brings me back to my point earlier. Had Hamilton not won that first title in 2008 and then suffered that same poor form in the few years that followed, would he have still been such an attractive option for Mercedes? It's now been revealed that Nico Hulkenberg was the team's second option. So just imagine a world where Hulk may not have just had one podium, but a few wins under his belt as well. I'm actually really interested in this one, so your thoughts in the comments would really be appreciated, so let me know down below. When Lewis switched to the Silver Arrows, everyone expected the partnership to fail. However, 5 podiums and a single win at the 2013 Hungarian Grand Prix suggests there may just be something brewing at the Brackley-based team. And then of course the turbo hybrid era began, where the Mercedes team decided to make everyone else look like complete idiots. The duo of Hamilton and Nico Rosberg would win all but 3 races in 2014, as their battle for the top spot became the only interesting thing to come out of the season in motor racing. Sadly, a reliability issue robbed F1 of the proper title decider, and Lewis cruised home to take his second championship. After 11 wins in 2014, Lewis followed that up with a further 10 the year after, dominating the season and teammate Rosberg, as their relationship fell away faster than Jacques Villeneuve's F1 career. After losing out to Hamilton in 2015, Rosberg was able to end that year on a high, with 3 straight wins which continued into the 2016 season. Hamilton would take 10 more wins again, but it was a reliability issue in Malaysia that would prevent Lewis from taking the title. Fortunately for Hamilton, Rosberg decided that he'd had enough and would rather become a YouTuber over an F1 driver, meaning Mercedes hired good old Valtteri Bottas to replace him. And though Bottas was nowhere near Hamilton, F1 fans were at least saved due to Ferrari, after about 10 years, finally starting to get their act together. Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel would fight for the next 2 championships, and while both were evenly matched, the Mercedes driver came out on top in both cases, whilst Ferrari found a selection of new ways to screw up a championship challenge. Even them allegedly cheating in 2019 wasn't enough to stop the utter dominance of Hamilton and Mercedes. So heading into 2020, Hamilton had taken 6 titles and was on the door of some of the most prestigious records in the sport, but that wasn't the main thing on his mind at the time. The death of George Floyd and the subsequent movements for equal human rights across the globe weighed heavily on the Brits' mind in F1's extended off-season before the 2020 campaign. Lewis was a big influence on the whole paddock when it came to F1 taking a stand against racism and calling out other drivers and the sport's heads to do something. And yet, with all this on his mind, he still managed to have one of the most successful seasons in his career, winning 11 out of the 16 races he competed in. And when your teammate is Valtteri Bottas and Ferrari have forgotten how to build a race car, there was never really any real competition for the British driver this year. In the end, as we all know, he came home to take that record-equaling 7th World Drivers' Championship. And so that brings us to present day, where Hamilton will get knighted as part of the New Year honours. But is it deserved? And is he one of the greatest drivers in F1 history? Well, for me, he's not the greatest of all time, because quite frankly, that title cannot exist. F1's a sport that depends on so many factors more than the driver himself. You've got the team, the car, the competition, the regulations, and also a bit of luck to factor into the equation as well. It's therefore near impossible to compare the likes of Hamilton to Schumacher and Senna, because they raced in 3 completely different eras of Formula 1. However, Hamilton has undoubtedly shown this year that he has talent. Yes, the Mercedes is a dominant car and has been for a very long time now, but Porridge Man, as much as we rip into him, is no slouch either. And the fact that Lewis has wiped the floor with him shows that he's still a level above the rest of the field out there. So for me, though Hamilton is not the greatest of all time, he's definitely one of the greatest of all time. As for whether he should get knighted, I think given both his achievements on track and everything he's done off it, he most certainly deserves that title. So arise, Sir Lewis Hamilton. Those then are just my thoughts on all of this. Now it's over to you guys down in the comments. Now I appreciate this is probably a fairly controversial topic of conversation, so just remember to keep it respectful down there, and I was willing to bet it could look like the Battle of the Somme in a few days. But if you did enjoy the video, do consider subscribing for more F1 content in the future as we head into the 2021 season. But that's all from me. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you all in the next one.